see the party's vision aligning with your values currently?
And that's a very critical question. First, amongst the first ones is the party's internal democracy. I've experienced the other side in all of the opposition parties, and if you look at the SWAPO Party processes, its internal institutions, it's very democratic. You can even take the party to court, yet you are not expelled. But what I've witnessed amongst the opposition parties is that once you seem to have a different opinion with your party leader, then it's a one-man show. You are kicked out with immediate effect. You are not even notified. So the first value that I really appreciate is the party's internal democracy. And I think that one should carry the day and go forward. The other one is in terms of youth empowerment, in terms of women economic empowerment, and in terms of the overall empowerment, especially in the rural areas of our farm workers, looking at the plight of the small-scale miners, for example, looking at the plight of the single mothers, trying to hold the candle, electrification, the water debts that we have been discussing in Parliament, and so on. So all of this, especially in terms of the social justice agenda, I'm very much aligned with what SWAPO is propagating for. And I'm quite satisfied that given the oil and gas find and the possible production from next year, that we are able to use those proceeds to do more. Because when it comes to poverty reduction, inequality gap between the rural and the urban women increasing, but also in the urban periphery, it is increasing. So if we can use the oil and gas finds, create perhaps a Ministry of Oil and Gas so that we can use those proceeds, especially to solve the hunger, the starvation crisis, because it won't help to make such oil find. You have all the proceeds and we don't invest it in the right corners of our society. So I think in terms of the socio-economic agenda and what we seek to achieve, especially employment creation, we need to work on that. And it is in alignment because there are already policy conference documents with SWAPO Party. And also some of these things are aligned in the national development plans and so on. So if we can capacitate our institutions, fight corruption, or those that are joining, for example, for the sake of trying to benefit elsewhere. And this is what Chama Mapinduzi did. I remember President Jakaya Kikwete took a stance that if you want to align capital must not dictate to the party. The party must always put the people first. If we can accelerate that and implement that, then I think it will be good. And I think I'm more aligned with that vision. Gender-based violence, we need to fight it, and we need to capacitate our students. But the biggest one, starvation, hunger, poverty, inequality gap, all those things, we must fight it tooth and nail. And I think SWAPO is the right institutions, the institutional capacity, and that can then, and human capital. SWAPO can deploy amongst its vast membership anytime, anyone. Even if you remove, let's say for argument's sake, all the cabinet ministers now, you will be able to replace them within 12 hours or even in 5 hours. That's a vastness. But if you look at the opposition parties, for example, you only find the party leader, the rest, no capacity. It's not a point to say, I'm now in SWAPO, I'm criticizing. I was there. I know the human capital, the shortcomings of the people that are deployed. But a big organization, a movement like SWAPO, is able to deploy its human capital anytime, anywhere.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Comrade Henny. Capacity is what we are preaching. I love the honest and robust conversation that we are having and how we are able to dissect with truth and honesty and also without any fear of favor. Brilliant. Comrade Knowledge, I think I would want to repeat the same question on vision. How does the party's vision align with your values currently? We've heard from Comrade Henny around party democracy, youth empowerment, women economic emancipation, social justice agenda, as well as the different policy documents that we have, whether it's the NDP's Vision 2030, the Harambee Prosperity Plan, and even most importantly right now, our manifesto. How, from everything that we are dissecting and doing in terms of vision of the party, how does that align with your values?
Yeah, I think the reality is that SWAPO has a strong and rich foundation. A foundation actually that has been built from the days of the liberation struggle, definitely spearheaded by the fight of workers. This fight of workers, which then went on to take us through to independence. What was the SWAPO programs during independence? These programs were very, very clear. It was about adding value to the Namibian people. Adding value to the Namibian people in terms of different programs which we have seen being implemented over the 34 years. And at the same time, we should remember that SWAPO has structures. Those ranks and files, you won't find it elsewhere. I'm talking about structures in 121 constituencies, 14 regions of our country. No one else can emulate that within the political parties within SWAPO. And that has always been the challenges to say, how do you reach out to the people at grassroots level? When you're talking about development, developing these constituencies, developing these regions, it needs to have foundation, it needs to have people on the ground who are actually spearheading that, who are communicating with the community on the ground. So that for me is the most important starting factor. And I've actually experienced that, especially when I was heading the Constituency Development Committee of the Wolfish Bay Urban Constituency. There was always that gap in terms of being in touch with the grassroots, understanding the story of the person on the ground. So through that, we are able then definitely to build the country, because we cannot expect national government to be able to initiate programs in the village without having the people adding value to that from the ground up. So it should always be a bottom-up approach that needs to be taken. And through that, we can always appreciate SWAPO for that foundation laid. And at the same time, definitely what SWAPO is saying is, and I like the manifesto currently, as well as the leadership vision of Comrade Netumbo. It's not shying away to say we have a gap between the haves and the have-nots. We need to bridge that gap. We need to then have people with capacity to deliver. We need to do away with the aspect of poor service delivery. These are the realities being spoken by SWAPO. And that to me speaks to me as a person, because you need to be able to identify the problem and give solutions, to identify your weaknesses and then build on that. Now, what we have then seen from the opposition parties is reactionary politics. Everyone else waits on SWAPO to make a mistake and point fingers to say, look at what SWAPO is doing, look at what SWAPO is doing. We all know the problems, we all know the challenges our communities face. What are the solutions? And no one has anything to show to say, housing, this is what we have done in terms of housing. This is the foundation we've laid, so we're just going to build on that. In terms of roads infrastructure, this is what we have in place. And we can then mention and tick off different boxes. And I always laugh at the fact that when we say that SWAPO has done nothing, today we enjoy actually peace, stability, and freedom of speech. That is actually the foundation laid by SWAPO. Without SWAPO, without the strong constitution or beautiful constitution that we have as a country, we wouldn't have been seeing these programs being initiated. And that to me is what speaks to me as a person, and that is how I see adding value, being able definitely to give even inputs to those going to parliament, those in leadership position, whether it is at section or branch level. That's the contribution I can always provide.
All right. Thank you very much, Comrade Knowledge Ipinge, on that input. If you are joining us now, we are busy with the episode 10 of the SWAPO Talks, and today's topic is SWAPO is home. You've missed quite a lot in terms of the robust and quite profound input that has been brought so far. Comrade Knowledge spoke around bridging the gap, improved service delivery, which our presidential candidate has been preaching since the onset. Now, there's something very interesting that is we've picked up around the wave that is waving around there. And it's the issue around the two-thirds majority. Comrade Nekongo, why do you believe having a two-thirds majority for the SWAPO party is important for the stability and the progress of this country? And why must the voters give the party a two-third majority?
Absolute majority.
Yeah, thank you. First, before I dissect into that, let me just educate our viewers that in their talks that, yeah, no, I'll vote for Netumbo, but then I'll vote for another party. I will encourage you to vote on ballot number 1, vote for SWAPO Party. Ballot number 2, vote for SWAPO Party, vote for Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. Because if you give Netumbo power, but you do not give her arms, it will be difficult for her to deliver. So therefore, consistently vote for SWAPO, vote for Netumbo on all the ballot. In fact, in all the ballot, there is only 2 women, but just look for the blue, the blue Duke, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. And on the other ballot again, you'll find the Duke again, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah and SWAPO Party. Then you assure us that we'll have the two-third majority. Now, why is it so important for us to have a two-third majority? The two-third majority is very important for Netumbo's administration to deliver the prosperity that she's singing on all our rallies to all the people. Because she can able now to say, if Parliament want to take this decision, overwhelmingly, we don't have any problem. The decision can be taken in a minute, so that we do not have now to deal with that. So long as you just said, no, there's this this law that we need immediately once it's debated and everything is approved, and then we can continue. Be it now, those laws that we are talking about, issue, for example, when you are told, no, natural resources, some of the natural resources does not belong to us and all these things. These are what is very critical for Parliament to discuss. But now, if you do not have that two-third majority, then you have difficult to deal with those laws. I think you have seen that in the city of Windhoek, for example, a classical example, SWAPO cannot take a decision. SWAPO want to electrify. SWAPO want to build roads. And we do not have a problem. But when you want to come to the table and take decision, AR is pushing this way, DTA or so-called PDM is pushing this side, this so-called landless people movement is pulling this. So at the end of the day, decision cannot be taken. And who suffer? It's you as the voters. So therefore, it's very important that we, all of us as voters, let's forget about all this Mickey Mouse that they are telling you. Go and vote for SWAPO Party to maintain its two-third majority so that we can able to develop the only country we call our home.
Now, when our commander of the young people was speaking, our secretary, and he said, look for the Duke, it reminded me of our hashtags that we have. And I'm appealing to all our viewers, most profoundly the 71%, which is the young people, to use the following hashtags. Hashtag number 1, hashtag look for the Duke. Hashtag Netumbo for president. Hashtag SWAPO has my vote. I mean, if not SWAPO, then who? Hashtag unity in diversity. Hashtag building the nation together. And my absolute favorite, hashtag history in the making. We all want to be part of making that history, where we are 10, 20 years from now and we are reflecting to say, I was part of the people that casted my vote for the first female president of Namibia. I'm even getting goosebumps saying it. But back to our conversation, Comrade Henning, there is so much around the 71%, which is the young people, the young voters, some of them also being first-time voters. But we've also heard from this conversation the many brilliant things that the SWAPO Party has done, and also the promises that comes with the manifesto, which are just not mere promises, but it's action points to say, once you empower the SWAPO Party with your vote, these are our takeoff. This is the promises that they're making to the people of Namibia. Now, having experienced both sides of the political spectrum, what do you believe SWAPO can offer the youth and the future generations of Namibia that the opposition cannot?
I think that's a critical question. One of it is that if you look at the creative art industry, that is a big sector. If we can transform it, professionalize it, ensure that all our artists, musicians, architects, and etc., and are well taken care of. There is a motion in Parliament, I think, that dealt with the creation of the Namibian Hall of Fame. I tabled it when I was other side, but once it is approved, all parties are supporting it. So in terms of the creative art industry, we really need to pump in resources. so that we can have our own actors. We have our own celebrities. Maybe you will become a world celebrity like Michael Jackson used to be, or Beyonce, and so on. And then we move over to the overall economic. The National Youth Fund should be created so that we can fund youth-initiated programs, business ideas. I'm more for enterprise development. I was once in the construction industry, and it is good so that we are able not only to create jobs, but also to ensure that we create generational wealth, for example. So if we can focus on that women empowerment, notwithstanding, we need to create a strong middle class in this country that is able to feed ourselves and to develop the country. So if we can pump in more resources to the youth-initiated programs and then to make sure that the comprehensive youth development agenda is imposed and implemented, I think it will do well. Look at, for example, the Brave Warriors. They did very well. But what's money? Every strategy needs a tactical approach. So if you don't invest in youth, apart from the education sector, I think we can do a lot, because you are right. It's 71%, as the statistics are saying. And we are, as we say, the youth grow with the nation. And in Africa, we are saying we have a high youth percentage. And the youth definitely needs to be empowered, whether it comes to the land reform, agrarian reform. And one aspect that I will encourage, especially when it comes to rapid industrialization, is that we need to have what we call an agricultural revolution in this country. With agriculture, look at Osenke North over, but that's not enough. And the owners, who are the owners from there? I understand when I did a little bit of a research that the foreign guys, for example, the Cape Townians, they come fly in with helicopters, sit. They don't even come to Windhoek, bang in Windhoek, they fly back. So now, if we can invest in food production, look, Namibia is what I call a supermarketization. If you look at Pick and Pays and ShopRites and so on, we hardly have, apart from Woermanbroek, our own supermarket. So, but now, during COVID, it has shown that we actually need to invest in food security, food production. Let's say if South Africa closed its borders, I think the 2022 Bank of Namibia report says that we can only survive for 5 months. So hence, I'm saying let's have agricultural revolution in this country, because without feeding ourselves, that is the basis. Because if you want to solve inequality, you need to invest in agriculture. We need, so that in agriculture, you don't need to have a university degree per se. Even a grade 5 or a grade 6 dropout can work. And what does it do? Once you employ those people, apart from the organized agriculture, once you employ them, the farm laborers now, for example, if a child, you put them through the hostel school system, and then that child goes up to the university, become maybe a quantum physics. So now what happens is that already you have closed the inequality gap by empowering single-handedly. But what do? You use agriculture as a basis. And I think that's how if you look at the Rosto's development stages, you start with agriculture. And agriculture, once the nation is educated, it reduces inequality. And I think that's where we should spend our energy on.
Indeed, what we are getting is agricultural revolution. And at some point, I also got to dissect deeper to agricultural sovereignty. Also, what you're saying is that all of this can only be given or assured by the SWAPO Party
Exactly.
government. Comrade Knowledge, any addition to that in terms of what the SWAPO Party can offer the youth and the future generations that most profoundly we know that the opposition cannot?
I think we should also understand the SWAPO program in terms of saying what are the stages of liberating the country. And the current stage where we at currently is to actually emancipate ourselves economically. That's where we're moving into. We're moving into that stage of ensuring that the living standards of households are actually in a better state in terms of economic value. And how do we want to achieve that as a SWAPO party? And I'm very happy that when I read the SWAPO manifesto, the very first thing that caught my attention, it is sports and creative industry, where it is ranked within the manifesto itself. That tells the story. And how does that tell the story? It tells the story in terms of we have Namibian soccer players who are the highest end players in the South African Premier League. Dion Hoto, Peter Shalulile. Meaning that our talent actually, we can export it. We have Colin Benjamin, who has gone to Germany and he has actually made waves and is a legend in Hamburg as we speak. So that speak to those stories. We then have the examples of the Gazas, the dogs who have gone out there, won international awards, and the story is being told. So somewhere, somehow, we've had that feasibility study being done for us voluntarily. So what the SWAPO party is currently saying is that now is the time to empower the youth, because SWAPO has always been youth-led. Because let's not forget that during the liberation struggle, it was the youth who were on the forefront. It was the youth leading. And today, when we look also at the parliamentary list of SWAPO, it is the youth on the forefront again. And now that youth will definitely have one program, and that program is actually to ensure that that trickles down to the rest of the youth and more empowerment happens. And I like the fact that we have sports and and the creative industry in terms of solutions, in terms of the unemployment crisis within the country. And what I foresee personally, and the first thing that came to mind also when I read that, I foresaw already that given that the strong policies that we have already in place and the Ministry of Labor that is dealing currently with a minimum wage bill that is actually there, it provides an opportunity also to say, are we able to then conduct a feasibility study in terms of having minimum wage for sports as well as the creative industries? So we then can ensure that these talents are nurtured and these individuals can then focus on their talents opposed to having two jobs as we see today. You see an athlete doing sports, but then forced due to the situation at home to have a second job or working as at a retail store or any other jobs, that just to be able to get that income. But then if we're able to then follow the case studies of South Africa, of England, Australia, who has then created a job market out of these two industries, then definitely we'll be solving a lot of youth challenges, especially those who have also been school dropouts. They have talent and they are able to be absorbed actually by these two industries. At the same time, there is the aspect of intellectual property. Intellectual property in terms of the new copyright bill that is currently under circulation, as well as also industrial intellectual property. Speaking of the oil and gas industry, of which a lot of engineering firms are busy setting up, and these are opportunities for our engineers that we say they don't have jobs. They are able to tap into these IPs, do 3D designs, go into pneumatics and all other areas which are around the oil and gas industry, creating technologies that can then provide services actually to the different opportunities coming up around the value chain of the oil and gas industry. So that's what I'm seeing SWAPO envisioning, and that's why you see deliberately there is that aspect of natural resource beneficiation, and that's how I see and that's how I understand it from a SWAPO perspective, and that's what they've spoken to me to say. I'll be able to add value being part and parcel and being a member of the SWAPO party.
Thank you very much. Comrade Nekongo, we have spoken about the two majorities, and we are dissecting what is in the A. There is also a notion of a coalition government. Do you support that? Or do you believe a single party leadership is more effective?
Moderator, I am prompt, maybe first before I come to that, to just to my colleagues say, look, my fellow young people, SWAPO Party is the only party currently, if you look on the table, with the bangable manifesto. Just imagine what I have said already. Creative industry will take care of it. Just imagine if you are a musician, as a young person, a musician, and we create a studio where you just come, do your thing, get your album, start performing for free. Just imagine that. Just imagine where you come as an artist, you perform your movie or your short, creativity, off you start selling, or we even say, we'll even create a series where you say, we must create a local content on our NBC, maybe 50% or even 70%. 70% should be a local content. We can do that so that we can able to promote our people. Agriculture that you have mentioned, imagine we are already putting about 500 million per annum on that. 85 billion put aside to create employment. What else? Which other party does that? So it's only SWAPO, and the list is endless. You follow our VP when he's addressing, these are things that we are talking about. And she's saying, this is not just a mere talk. It's issues that we are going to do. And we even said, after the winning, we will go and the headquarters of SWAPO will be the one to say, Minister A, you are not implementing what we said. If you are not even implementing what we are saying, or you want to contradict us, we'll get rid of you and put people that can perform what we have promised the people. So therefore, the only party we can vote for is only SWAPO. Because even if you follow now somebody who is running on the street, basically, he's only talking about unemployment. He was talking about poverty, but we are already addressing that. So therefore, there is no bread on the other side. The bread is only here at SWAPO. Now, coming back to the question that you have asked me, which I know Namibian, we are not going to have a coalition government. I'm saying here, we are not South African, we are not Botswana, whatever you call them. We are Namibian. We have our unique way of doing things. We appreciate what our government is doing. Yes, we have challenges, and I want to underline that we have challenges. There's nowhere any other else in the world where there are no challenges. And these are challenges that we are ready to face head on. So therefore, as much as I want to entertain that, it's not a productive even discussion to discuss about unity government, because there is no way that you develop a country through unity government. You can Google, you can do your research in African context. There is no way it has. But definitely we know that we are going to get our two-thirds majority, and Comrade Netumbo is going to win overwhelmingly with 90% or even 100%. So therefore, coalition government, we know Namibian, and coalition government is merely what is happening in Window. Do you want us to go what is happening in Window where decision cannot be taken? So we can't allow that. So therefore, I don't believe into it, and I just encourage my fellow Namibians, let's go out in big numbers, just in the next 5 days. I'm excited. Let's go and vote for Netumbo. If you go in the ballot, the blue took.
Yeah.
She's the only woman in a blue took and on the SWAPO ticket. So, and then you vote for SWAPO Party when we are not even talking about coalition government. So therefore, we'll have a government that the government of the people, by the people.
Indeed, still taking us back to the hashtag look for the Duke on the ballot paper. And profoundly you said, we are Namibians and we have a unique way of doing our things, the Namibian way. Comrade Henny, on the coalition government, what are your thoughts?
I don't even want to wish for Comrade Nanti Ndaitwa to have any coalition government. You see, there are a lot of pitfalls when it comes to coalition government. One, because you are coming from different parties, it's very difficult to contain, it's very difficult to be disciplined, and it's very difficult to implement your policies and laws. So therefore, I discourage Namibians must actually go out, vote for Comrade Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa, vote for SWAPO parties, absolute majority, not even two-thirds. Two-thirds, already SWAPO has 63 seats. They only need one more, 64 majority. No, we want an absolute majority so that the next 5 years, especially the challenge comes in, there is oil and gas find and green hydrogen. Do you really want to have some crazy people sharing that with our president? No, you can't. There are some political parties, by the way, in Namibia that are calling for federalism. You know the other word for federalism? They are calling for regionalism. They are saying, let's have federal government. Why? Because apparently where they are coming from, there is oil and gas and green hydrogen projects, and the rest of Namibians or Namibia is going to be cut out. So therefore, let's reject it. Unity in diversity is what we should call for. And I was fortunate, at least with Meme Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah. I was in Parliament. Every time after the session, she will say, "Come back, my son, let's talk." For the past 2-3 years, it's not something that happened suddenly. No, we have been talking, and I have been saying, but provided, Meme, there is one thing: transparency, accountability, and good governance. We need to be accountable to our people. And I said, one guarantee is that if there is no zero tolerance with regards to corruption, I'll be the first one to speak out. Now, many analysts, political analysts, so-called, many of the commentators are worried. He will be quiet, he will be silenced by the vast majority. No, all Namibians, we have what we call a natural law. We are all born to be free in this instance. So we are all allowed to air our views. And the good thing in SWAPO Party is that there is freedom of expression. That's why I was saying SWAPO is the most democratic party right now compared to the rest of the other political parties registered with the ECN. So in terms of coalition government, I don't want to wish for Comrade Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah to be in such a complex situation. I don't want SWAPO Party in Parliament to be in such a complex. I know some are calling around, I must become a prime minister, and then we can have 3 deputy ministers and 5 ministers, and therefore we must form a coalition government. I know one opposition party leader has been calling around SWAPO ministers and deputy ministers. I was in Kunene last weekend, and then Korigas, to be specific. And then these people were talking those things. So those aspirations must never be realized because it brings chaos, crisis, service delivery will be compromised. There will be more insults, and people will be coming with documents saying, look, this tender is what. We don't want that. It's complete chaos, and you cannot build a capable state if you are in such a chaotic situation. Unfortunately, in terms of public administration, in terms of good governance, in terms of development agenda that we have set for ourselves as the country and as a political party, it won't work. And it must never work. I forbid that.
Indeed, ours is good governance, and that's the SWAPO Party, and that's what we preach on the streets. I want to share a quote before our last round of questions, rather. And that quote goes as follows: "Women's leadership is the power to transform countries, to nurture progress, and to lead with empathy and strength in times of change." And this is none other than Dr. Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah, who all of us are gearing up to go and vote for on the 27th of November, as well as the SWAPO Party. We are going to vote for Dr. Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah because she's a top diplomat, she's a transparent, accountable leader, a caring mother who is ready to nurture and carry all of us on her back, a leader par excellence who preaches good governance. What more do we want, Namibia, if that is not what we need? Now, our last question, and sadly so that this very interesting conversation has to come to an end. As we close, what would your final message be to the voters, encouraging them to choose a path that ensures sustainable peace and development for Namibia's future, which we have all agreed in this conversation that lies with the SWAPO Party as well as our presidential candidate? Maybe Comrade Knowledge, you can start, then Comrade Sabab, and then Comrade Secretary will close the conversation for us.
Definitely being a child that has been brought up by a single mother since the age of 12, I've experienced basically what it means to have a caring mother. And that is what I wish for the Namibian nation. A caring mother who's a diplomat, at the same time who's transparent, accountable, and who's also a student or someone who has been mentored by a leader who doesn't believe in corruption at all and who has faced corruption heads on, who is Julius Nyerere. And that, for me, it is what speaks to me. And when people are talking about what would be different within the current SWAPO than before, What I'm saying is that SWAPO is a house that has gone through renovation, whereby it was raining and there were leaks and renovations have taken place, and now that house is actually good and we can sleep in that house. And that's why we find ourselves here. So there's no better way but to vote for SWAPO, vote for the SWAPO presidential candidate, and then flourish the country moving forward.
Yeah, I think you have given a good quote, and I've taken two words basically. One is empathy. As a human being, you must have empathy, and that is what Comrade Netumbo Nandi Ndudu is exposing. The other one is the sympathy. You should be able to sympathize, draw sympathy with the people, and the other one is integrity. It's within her. She's incorruptible, and she's very honest, and she's a caring person. Now, therefore, that provides for us hope and belief. But on top of that, she has political calcium. When you are a baby, you are drinking milk, and if you don't drink milk, you won't have strong bones and you will collapse. So she has political calcium and a political capital to be able to transform us as a society, to be able to listen to us, to hear us, what we are saying. And I think those are the values, the hope, the belief, the aspirations that she has given us, accompanied, of course, by the 2024 SWAPO Party Elections Manifesto and the political program of the SWAPO Party. And I think and I believe we can do it. People shouldn't compare us, as Comrade Negongo said, with Botswana. They shouldn't even compare us with South Africa, ANC, what happened there. They shouldn't even compare Comrade Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah with Kamala Harris, what happened in America. No, this is Namibia. We are not Kamala Harris. We are not anything else, but we are in Southern Africa, and we are going to shield, as Namibia means. We are going to shield her, she's going to shield us, and we are going to work hard, put on our boots, leave our suits, and then we will enter the field and work very hard. We are not going to have any house people here. We are all going to be field workers, so that at least we can increase our GDP and increase, employment of our people. Thank you very much. Okoheba.
Community Secretary.
Well, Namibian, you have it all. Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah is here, our mother. Mothers, you know how caring you are. In fact, I should say you must champion this campaign. As mothers, as our girlfriend, please ask us politely and say, go and vote for the history that we want to make. So therefore, we have all what we need. We have our top diplomat. We have our Comrade Netumbo, who have a political calcium, picking up now. And we have a caring mother. We have a person who have experience in leadership. You must not allow yourself to be tried on. Netumbo has experience. He have governed and he have run this country for many years. And many programs that we are enjoying today is because of her. So therefore, in the next 5 days, go out there and cross at SWAPO Party, vote for SWAPO Party and vote for Comrade Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah. And come the 28th, we'll be celebrating the victory and the history that we will make. So therefore, go out there, vote for SWAPO Party. Go and convince even those that are confused by those that want to confuse them, those that are running and seeking and running around looking for a job. Tell them we have already Netumbo, and tell them we have already SWAPO. So therefore, viva SWAPO and viva Netumbo.
Viva.
Viva.
Thank you very much to my panelists. It has been an absolute honor moderating this session where we have dived and dove into everything else, but what came out on top is that Netumbo for president and SWAPO Party will be the one to get our cross come on the 27th of November. There's this song by Ndilimani, and if I could sing, I would have sang it, but unfortunately I can't. But it says you should press with a pencil or a cross presser, you know. So come the 27th, we are all going out in numbers. Whether you want to come with your cooler box, your head, your shades, be there, be in those queues. Do not surrender as young people. We are going to be part of history in the making. We are going to vote for the first female president of the